Jersey Baseball Show today as we kick off in earnest college baseball season this weekend. I know we've had a few games to start, but hit the heavy stuff this weekend here with the D1 season starting and much more. We have a special guest today. We are not talking about college baseball on the field. We're not talking about the 4-year plan for you student athletes. We're really looking beyond your college years, your 40-year plan, so to speak. And we are excited to bring on one of our key partners to the show, Jim Grugan of 5-Star Hiring. Jim is we're going to talk about how we can help set you up beyond college and into the working career. Talk about what Jim does, why this is could be one of the most important shows we do. Make sure you connect with Jim Grugan, 5-Star Hiring. And really the thing that excites me about this is kind of the one hiring agency, the one search firm that deals exclusively with the student athlete just coming out into college and placing him or her into area businesses. Welcome to the show, Jim, and thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Quite an introduction. Thank you, Mike, for having me. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. Really am.
Now you got to find a job for every athlete in the area is what we kind of got here, right?
Every single one. That's the plan. Let's help as many as we can.
Excellent. So yeah, like I said, this is we focus a lot about on the field. And really, again, that's kind of a short portion of the lifespan here. Whereas, finding a job when you are an athlete, especially a spring sport athlete like baseball, is really tough because when all your friends are out interviewing, you're right in the middle of your season, and it is a grind and it is a job in itself, and you don't have time, between practicing games, travel, doing your own classwork, making sure you graduate. Right. So it's hard to get a job as a spring sport athlete. Where do you come in? Tell us about 5-Star Hiring. And, let's talk about the job hiring process for our senior athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. It's a challenge for any student athlete. But like you said, particularly spring sports. And the reason being, you find in speaking to many, as you, I'm sure, have spoken to countless baseball players, and I've spoken to athletes across all spectrums. But when you get to the spring sports, it's winter workouts start right away, right? And then we get right into the season, and next thing you know, you look up and you've graduated, your season's over, and now it's time to kind of quote unquote start your life. And a lot of times athletes feel unprepared, which isn't necessarily the case. So part of what I do is not only help to find student athletes jobs, that's the primary mission, but and that's when I started this, that was the focal point. But quickly I realized that there needed to be a mentorship side to it as well, or an advisor side, if you will, because in speaking to many athletes, one, I don't think they realize quite the magnitude of what they've just accomplished as far as being a 4-year student athlete. And what that takes and the skill sets that they've acquired that are going to be directly transferable into the professional world. So I think a part of it not only is helping the student athletes find their placement and where to begin and launch their career, but it's also helping them see the value in what they've accomplished and how to convey that to interviewers, to hiring managers. Oftentimes they're not going to have any internship experience, and if they do, it may be light. But what I like to tell student athletes is that their student athlete experience, that is their internship, and if guided properly or coached, if you will, they can translate that information to hiring managers in a way that the hiring managers will also see the shared value in what they've acquired as far as the basic skill sets: time management, work ethic, teamwork, communication, things of that nature.
Yeah, so not everybody is familiar with having a recruiter work on their behalf, and I would guess that most of our athletes, at least those in college, probably aren't familiar at all because they haven't really been in the professional world or a small percentage have. Let's talk about how what you can do or what you do for the student athlete, and maybe before that, Um, you know, what brought you to this? What do you feel? Why are you working with student athletes? Basically, how did that come about? Because I know this is, like I said, it's really a new niche. Um, what appeals to you about trying to help, get these people into the workforce?
Yeah. So thanks for asking that, because it is something that I would like to touch on. So, I was at my former job for 25 years. I spent my entire career with one company. And during that time, I wasn't even in staffing or HR. I was just a long-term, employee. And having had such tenure, I have some friends who are college basketball coaches who over the years would come to me and ask for help placing their student athletes as they graduated. And I did that on several occasions. And each time I did it, I found that the employee was exemplary. They were better than most recent graduates, had longer tenure, and were just better employees. And then I myself transferred into more of an HR hiring type of role my last 5 years or so with that company. And as I started to look on bringing on new talent, I remembered that. So I started to myself look for student athletes. And again, I saw the same results. They were better employees. It was a high turnover position. They had less turnover than most because of the resiliency factor. I think is one reason. So I knew that there was value in the skill set that was acquired, that was transferable, that was making student athletes good employees. And as I started to do some research, I saw that you have staffing agencies who focus on various things, whether it be IT, executive level, sales, marketing, engineers, whatever the case may be. Each kind of industry or profession has its own niche. And I didn't see anybody catering to the student athlete space. So I started to do a little bit of research. And then the other piece was, like you said, helping people, right? It's one of the reasons I made the move from servicing to HR was the fact that it allowed me to help people. It's very gratifying and rewarding to help somebody grow and launch and develop their career. But I was kind of limited in that I only had an opportunity or two with one company. And I thought that if I can kind of go out on my own, it would give me the opportunity to branch out and be able to help more people from more majors in more professions. So that was kind of a big part of it. Is one, I saw value in it. I saw that it was an untapped market, and it gives me the opportunity to do something that's very rewarding.
Yeah, we're here with Jim Grugan today, 5-star hiring. We are hoping to help everybody find jobs after graduation, after you finish your baseball career or whatever sport it is that we are, reaching out to here. And I can say that, I don't have the data to back it up, but I've got probably a dozen years or so in recruiting myself, and just countless stories of, being an athlete, ultimately being, something that was, not just a positive, but a real strong positive for companies. Your ability to perform under pressure, or, take your experiences and compete and be competitive, especially in a sales type role where you're competing and kind of, being coached to perform. Those are all things that have gone over, especially well in my stories. But explain maybe to those athletes listening how you do work, how you work on their behalf, because I think most people, as I was starting to say earlier, don't really understand, how a recruiter can work for them. I guess the first question that people will have is it going to cost me anything?
And that was going to be my first part of the answer. The best part of it is no, it does not cost anything to the student athlete, or as we look to grow and develop this, partnerships with schools. It doesn't cost the school anything. It doesn't cost a coach anything. It doesn't cost the program anything. It costs the employer where I would be placing you. So the way it works is I get a job requisite from a client. Most likely because they see the value in it as well. So right then and there, just by the nature of me being given that role to look to source, a candidate that I bring is going to have an advantage over another candidate who may just, let's say, see the posting on Indeed and apply for it. Because more likely than not, I was given that position to fill because the hiring manager or the company set of values shares my mission, right? They see the added value in being a student athlete. So they know I'm bringing them kind of what they're looking for. So you're already going to have a leg up there, if you will, as coming through 5-star hiring. And again, it doesn't cost the athlete or the student athlete anything. It's just a service to help them find a job rather than just getting on LinkedIn or Indeed and, throwing your resume against the wall to see what sticks. This is a much more targeted search. It's much more kind of an alignment with employers that see the value in what you bring. And we hear that a lot, right? Like, know your value. These are employers that are going to know your value. So you're going to be going somewhere where you're wanted, which is another thing, when I talked about the mentorship side, I talk about when speaking to athletes that in the interview process, you should be interviewing companies as much as they're interviewing you, because you need to make sure it's a fit. But to this extent, a lot of that's already being done because you know that the company you're going to is a company that sees value in what you're bringing as a student athlete.
How much, to simplify it to the easiest terms, is that job search a lot like the recruiting period at the end of high school when they were looking for a college? The only difference is, 4 years or 5 years later, or with COVID, 6 years later. How much more do you, it seems like maybe the student athlete will understand that concept of fit better than when they were a high school student. I'm sure there's certainly a level of maturity, but how much is it kind of similar to that as far as the job process to the recruiting process?
That's a great question. It's a great question. I think it's similar in that you being the student athlete needs to make sure that it's a fit, right? You're not going, and again, yesterday was this National Signing Day. So we see these terms, right? We see the, can't be D1 or bust mentality. Don't go just to a coach, right? Go to an environment or a school that has your major. All of these things, right? That just beyond the social media splash that you're going to make, it needs to be the best fit for you as a student athlete. And this is the same thing. This is where you're going to start your professional career and really kind of the beginning of your life. Like you said, that the next 40 years is beginning, with this first role that you take out of school. So it's similar in that, you need to find something that's going to be a fit for you, or the student athlete needs to find something that's going to be a fit for you. The difference is you're not going to be getting offers, so to speak, at least on the front end of the process. Now, what I'm here to do is ensure that it ends with an offer.
Right.
But you're not really going to be actively recruited once you graduate and you look to start a job. And I will say also, if you have any in your audience, anyone listening, this service is not strictly for new grads, 22 grads. This could be any student athlete who has, who has that experience on their resume and maybe looking for a new job, upward mobility, career change, whatever the case may be. We're here to assist anybody who has that on their resume.
Yeah, I would think that you've got a great market, obviously, from the just graduating, because they're going to need a little bit of help, but also that maybe 5 years in and really like what else is out there, that they've been at one job and they don't, I know one thing, but I'm itching to do something a little bit different or a little bit more. And I've got the same, background and success. And now I've got a track record of doing a good job at a place. Those people have got to be a good target and a good area where you could help too.
Absolutely. Yes. I have roles right now that I'm looking to fill that require 3 to 5 years experience. And, that's the candidate that we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm a student athlete. I just graduated from Rowan or Westchester, or, again, you're talking on either side of the river, or I played 5 years ago. I graduated and I'm looking. Walk me through how, what should I do now that you've got me interested? How do I get in contact? And then kind of walk me through how your process works so that they know what to expect a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So the first thing would be to do was visit 5starhiring.net.
Yep.
I am on multiple social media platforms. LinkedIn is probably where I'm most prevalent. I'm also at 5-Star Hiring, and also James Grugan. Have profile there under both myself and the business. Same thing on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. I'm sorry, not LinkedIn. I already said that. Instagram. I'm so they can find me on those social media platforms. I'll often, when I get new jobs, I'll be placing them on those social media platforms so they could see that, links to the website. Also, we're starting to unroll a program which will give some advice and guidance on how to interview, how to begin the interview process, those type of things. So I could be found on all of those bases, and also email jamesg@5starhiring.net. Student athlete were to reach out to me, I would get back to them as quickly as possible. I try to be very accommodating and open up the lines of communication. I would just learn a little bit about the student athlete when they graduate, if they've already graduated, what their major was, what they're looking to do. We would discuss roles that I have. And if one or multiple of those is a fit, then we would start to talk about getting them submitted as a candidate. And if they're not, because again, as we touched on, I am relatively new to this, so I don't have 75 recs, but we'll get there. We'll get there. But the good thing is, if I don't have a rec, let's say maybe somebody's looking to get into medical sales or something along those lines, and I don't have the fit that you're looking for. Well, if I have you as a candidate, that puts me in a better position to go to a company who's looking for that role and say, listen, I saw on LinkedIn, you're looking to fill this position. And I have several candidates at my disposal that I could bring to you. So just because you may not see on the website, for example, a position that interests you, it shouldn't prevent you from reaching out, because you as a profile could help me land, that contract, and we can kind of grow and work together.
Yeah, it's and again, it's a great way to network, kind of on steroids for the student athlete. I shouldn't say steroids when we're talking about athletes, but
Especially in baseball.
yeah, you're right. It's but certainly get a much more efficient work done. When you have an additional person like yourself really selling and working on their behalf. So the candidate side, why it's important for student athletes, certainly is pretty apparent and obvious, and coaches, that are watching this, as an extra service that can be provided, because gosh, coaches do enough as it is. They're not going to be out helping you look for jobs necessarily too. But obviously there's a segment here, hopefully, that watches these shows that, are from, parents, travel organizations, business owners, that, are hiring. They are hiring managers themselves. So what would the message that you'd want to be to get out to those people as to why they should be in contact with 5-Star Hiring?
Yep. So it's a time value proposition, right? And you just mentioned it. I'll start with the coaches first. So one of your things, if you're a coach and a good one, you're developing young men, right? You're not just winning baseball games or whatever the sport may be. It's about the relationships that you're building and forming, that are going to last a lifetime. And there's really no better way to do that than to help your players start their career. So that will be one, from a coach standpoint. And also, two, coaches, if you're a little selfish, tell your AD about this. Now it opens it up to the whole program, and it makes you look good in front of your AD. So that's another thing. We can make you look good out of this as well. Right. And to the prospective employer side, if you're talking about if you're watching this, you obviously have some vested interest in a player in some way, shape, or form, or were a player yourself. So you see the value proposition in the student athlete and the skill set that they bring. So it's just a matter, and again, it's a time thing. You may want to hire student athletes. You may see the value in it, but you don't have the time. You get 200 resumes on Indeed. Maybe 2 of them played sports. and maybe those two just aren't a good fit for whatever reason. So now you're back to the drawing board. But you have at your disposal in 5-star hiring a resource that can bring you a lot more student athlete candidates than you'd be able to effectively and in time efficient in a time efficient way be able to do yourself.
Yep. Again, Jim Grugan, 5-star hiring. We're here today. We're talking jobs, the job market, student athlete candidates, getting hired, making some money, all important things. And certainly happy to help provide that platform to the student athletes that we care so much about here. I guess a question, because we talked briefly about transferable skills, right? I mean, you may not, if you've played 4 years of baseball, you may not have as good as summer internships as others. But what would you say, how would you consider pitching yourself to companies as an athlete if you were, getting on the job market now, how your transferable skills can make you an impact player?
Sure. That's a great question. So for baseball, I think the biggest thing is your ability to overcome adversity, right? I mean, it's a game essentially based on failure. Your ability and again, we talked that, a lot of these are sales roles, but they don't necessarily have to be, but it really translates in a sales type of role. Your ability to overcome adversity, because you're going to hear a lot of no's and things like that. But just generally speaking to the global workforce is your time management skills. I think you said it in your introduction, it's essentially a full-time job to be a student athlete, right? And you're managing that while also, being held to an academic standard, not only on par with the general student body, you're actually held to a higher standard because you need to maintain a certain GPA to play sports. So that's another distinction from just your regular recent grad is the higher academic standard that you're held to. So I would say your time management skills, your work ethic. Certainly anybody who plays at that high of a level, that's not all God-given talent. In fact, that's probably very little of it. It's the work ethic that you put in to get to that level and to stay at that level. Your teamwork ability, you all often hear companies talk about company culture and fit, and workplace environment. Anybody who, especially team sports, you just bought into a culture, and in some cases, probably helped to develop and build that culture for the last 4 years. As a hiring manager, that's somebody I want to bring into my building. That's somebody who I want to bring into my office. That's a future leader, right? Who's going to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And oftentimes, you're working within departments, so you have the ability to not only be a good teammate to your team, but also to extend that to other departments. And that's where your communication skills come in as well, where you're able to kind of effectively relay the message of your team to other, team members that you may be working with within your organization or outside organizations. So that would just be some of them off of the top.
Absolutely. Favorite part of the job for you?
Oh, it's easily how rewarding it is. I mean, they're really truly, and I kind of touched on this earlier, when I got into recruiting in the private sector, it was rewarding getting people the opportunity to start or grow their careers. But now having the opportunity to present multiple opportunities, multiple roles, it gives me kind of a lot more latitude in how I can help. It's far and away the most rewarding part is being able to help, young men and women start their careers. It's invaluable.
Absolutely. Jim Grugan, our guest today. Again, 5starhiring.net. Check him out. Hopefully you've seen what we've run so far on our social media as well, introducing our new partner. Certainly glad to have him and know that he's going to make an impact on some of your lives. Make sure you connect with him. Jim, thank you so much for taking the time today, and look forward to seeing this continued success of your company and the great things that you do.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to connecting with as many of your student athletes and employers or coaches or whoever's going to reach out. I'm looking forward to build those relationships. And I would say, we talked about kind of the region you said earlier, the Rowings and the Westchesters. It's a virtual world that we're in now. So, nobody, I don't want anybody to feel excluded and think it's not worth it for them to reach out. If I can help, I can help. If I can't directly, maybe I can indirectly or in the future. It's never too early to start networking. So always feel free to reach out, whether you think I can help or not. Let's have a conversation.
Absolutely. 5starhiring.net. Get on it today and make sure you set yourself up for a long and prosperous future. That's it for our show today. Again, thank you for joining us on JBS, and we look forward to catching you next time.